as a general FYI, hashtag innovfestunbound is currently trending #1 on all social media platforms in Singapore. So we're doing that very, very well. General announcement, don't forget we have the Urban Experience immediately after the closing of the festival at 6:30. We will have buses taking all of you guys to Ancian Hill. How many of you guys went to the Urban Experience last year? Anyone? Just me? Okay. It was amazing, so I hope to see you guys there. If you like my picture on Instagram, I'm buying you a beer. And I will hold my end of that deal. Are we ready? Yep. Okay, so next up, like I said, in search of virality. And please let me introduce my moderator for this, Prerna Suri, broadcast journalist. Please, come on up. All right, guys.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me in the back as well? Yep. All right, lovely. I'm really happy to see these many people at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, so thank you for being here with us. Just to set the context for the panel, my name is Prerna Suri. I've been a broadcast journalist for the last 15 years, covering all sorts of issues, not so much on viral content, I must admit. And that's why I'm here as a learner as well. But here to talk about In Search of Virality are my stellar panel. So let me start with Karl, who's the co-founder of SGAG and MGAG. Caroline Troman, who is the general manager APAC for Brave Bisons. Byron Perry, who's the founder and CEO of Coconuts Media. And last but certainly not the least, Julian, who's the chief of digital business at SPH. Now, when we think about viral content, for me, the first thing that comes up are cats and babies. But I'm sure there is a scientific formula to what makes content viral. So here's a question to everyone on the panel. What is viral content, and can content actually be made viral? So if anyone wants to have a go at that. Byron, maybe, do you want to start?
What is viral content? Does my mic work? Can you hear me?
Does his mic work?
Okay. Viral content, I would say, it's very hard to predict what is going to go viral. It really could be anything. It could be a cat or a baby. It could be a violent video. It could be a funny video. It's usually something that shocks the audience or makes them say, wow. Yeah, that's what I would say viral content is.
Anyone has any other thoughts?
Hello?
Is the mic working? Yep, I'm just wondering if, yep.
So for us at SGAG, I mean, since we're in Singapore, we make a lot of these funny videos that you might see on Facebook, some of which have gone viral globally or regionally. And I think we try our best to hit that sort of viral nerve every time we create a video, but it's really, really difficult. There is no science behind it. At many times, it's very, very random. I think the most viral video that I can think of last year, not made by us, was probably Pen, Pineapple, Pen. Why would a pen and a pineapple and a pen that sticks all that together go viral to such a large extent? Nobody can really break that down.
That brings a smile to my face every time.
Yeah, so for us, I think we don't actually know what goes behind that. And I think global studies have not pointed that to anything, but I think for us, we know what the audience likes, and in that instance, zooming into a particular platform like Facebook or YouTube, what does the platform optimize for? What does your audience like? And testing and running micro experiments around that generally optimizes for content success.
So I'll go next. Is my mic working?
Is Caroline's mic working now? Right.
I'm going to shout in a minute. I've got a very loud voice as well. Yeah. Okay, so from our perspective, I would say very simply, viral video is something that's talked about and something that's shareable. We're actually the third largest viral video publisher in the world from an entertainment and media perspective, just behind Disney and Time Warner. So we do understand what makes video viral. We use a lot of data behind it, and it's really important to create the viral video that is relevant for the platform that you're working with as well. So that would be my analogy in a nutshell.
Hi. for us at SPH, actually the whole concept of virality is actually not new. I mean, I see a lot of young people here, so I'm not sure how many of you, read the newspapers, but, in those years, before digital, before internet, I mean, newspapers, people share newspapers. After you read, you pass it on, to your colleagues, to your family, and even at work, if there was an interesting article, I still remember, my boss would like cut out the article and then, distribute that. It would be sent, via a memo to everyone. But of course, times have changed, and for us at SPH, we've had to transform. And that includes, coming up with content, that can go viral in different platforms. And for us now, those who are still interested in reading, the newspaper type format, we actually have an e-paper that is available online, where people again can just, by just tapping on the article, you can actually forward articles, you can actually share articles, you can actually make it viral. To us, virality can come in many platforms, many ways, video obviously is one. Photos is actually becoming very, very important part of coming up with a good content that can go viral as well.
Sure. So I'm thinking, just from hearing different perspectives, that there is no real scientific study to say that XYZ makes a great content viral. So here's the next question then. What is viral content in the sense, is it a meme? Is it a photo? Is it a newspaper clipping? Can you actually define that, or is it everything?
I think one point that's so important is to discuss the platform's influence and what goes viral, which very much changes, especially Facebook, which is one of the most important platform, bar none, in terms of what goes viral. So even though there are core aspects to content that often does make it go viral across any platform, certain types of content that used to go totally viral doesn't anymore because Facebook has changed.
Algorithms and the...
Yeah, like Upworthy type content where there was a clickbait, curiosity gap headline, you'll never believe what happened here. That type of formula used to work perfectly on the Facebook algorithm. It used to constantly go viral. That type of formula now will be penalized within Facebook and will not go viral. So I think even though there's a lot of human element to it as to just great stories or interesting things that maybe will transcend the algorithms, there's still a huge influence by the algorithms, especially on Facebook, in what does go viral.
And how can you then bypass those algorithms to actually then get to the audience that you want to reach as well, for the brand marketeers and the entrepreneurs in the audience who'd like to do that?
I think there's like two clear buckets here. So you've got the viral video that's non-branded content, and then you've got the viral video that is branded content. And we work with influencers. It's the one part of what we do. So we sit in between the platforms, the brand, and then the influencer or the creators. And so it's really, really important to first of all, understand your audience, and be authentic with the content that you're creating. I think authenticity, originality, something that's talked about, something that's perhaps controversial, those types of content are what really works well. We've got lots of examples. We recently worked with A&A, who are quite a traditional brand. All Nippon Airways, a Japanese airline, and we worked with 10 different influencers across 10 different markets, and we sat in between the brand and the creators as the advisor, and then we were able to give the creators direction to create original content, giving them the freedom to do that, but also then keeping the brand happy with regards to keeping on brand identity, because obviously that's very important as well. So it's getting all of those elements right, and that's what makes it very challenging, and that's what makes it so important to work with experts to understand that whole ecosystem and how it all fits together.
Karl, you were going to say?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we really think about user journeys. We think about optimizing from timing of launch and which platform we launch. As Byron mentioned, different platforms have different user behaviors. So for example, to put it as simply as a Singaporean, we don't want to be launching content at midnight when everybody is going to bed, or at 9 a.m. when every young person is going to be in school, right? So however, we're going to think about launching stuff at noon. Maybe it's lunchtime, maybe it's a lunch break that people would be bored and have 15 minutes to scroll through your phones. Maybe it's 6 p.m. after InnoFest on the way to the after party. You're going to be on Grab and you're going to be scrolling through your feed. Or maybe it's 10 p.m. right before you go to bed. You have Wi-Fi. You could watch a longer piece of content because you have Wi-Fi and it's not going to eat into your mobile data. So we think about these user journeys, and from there we optimize these things that we can control, like formats and length and type of content. And then when we launch, just let the audience decide what they like and what they don't, and run those experiments to continuously optimize for better stories to be told through the right platforms, delivered with the right timings and all the things that we can test for.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add on to that. I think understanding your audience is actually very, very important. So like for example, in SPH, we've actually now come up with different products catering to different types of audience. So of course we have the flagship Straits Times, which is fairly mass market, and it covers a wide group. But there are also different products that we've come up to target different audiences. So like for example, we have Stomp. I think those who in Singapore would know that Stomp is a very viral platform, and it has actually become a verb. So have you checked out, have you got stomped or not? But apart from that, we have also now come up with new products to cater for, say, the millennial generation. So whether it is Red Ants for the Chinese speaking or Stir. So I think for us, understanding audience is very important. And the other area that we've been working hard on is also to do personalization and how we use AI and data for that. For example, even though both of us read the Straits Times, but I may prefer a different type of content. I may prefer more lifestyle content, as compared to somebody else who prefer more business type content. And by using data, by using analytics, by using AI, we are looking to see how we can personalize content to be more targeted, and that I think is definitely going to be the future in virality.
And if I think about viral videos that I myself have watched incessantly on YouTube, one of it, and of course it's the journalist in me that's coming out again, it's that BBC video in South Korea where the professor was having that beautiful interview, and in comes his daughter, and soon after that his baby comes in on that roller chair. So for me that brings a lot of smiles. But then it also brings out the question that it's become almost blasé. Is there a new formula that we can have to make content viral? You have the baby, you have the animals, you've done all that, what next? Or should we be shock and awe all the time?
I mean, I'm happy to take that, because I think the next step here is very simple, and it's as you said, it's data. Using data, very smart, alongside the creative. So we've just partnered with a company called Unruly, who do data and insights and distribution, and they've done a lot of studies around Asia and actually globally about the relevance of different videos with different cultures and how they resonate on people's emotions as well. So just a very interesting progression on data, and we're using those insights, those emotional insights and cultural insights, to then not only create our ideas and the content, but actually then use it for editing as well. So it becomes a lot smarter when we're running campaigns, especially across multi-market, where one video may make somebody laugh, and it may make somebody cry, it may insult somebody. There's a whole different range of how people are actually reacting to different types of content. So really important to have data fueling all of that.
Mm-hmm. I think we're getting a lot of reactions on our app as well, and so the audience is getting slightly warmed up to the idea that what we're talking about may perhaps become viral, perhaps. So let's take that question then. Perhaps, Julian, that's for you. Is newspaper type articles still relevant nowadays in this context of virality? Are newspapers still relevant?
I think in the traditional sense, if you think of newspaper as just text, then I think we have transformed, and my company SPH is now a digital-first company. So whilst we still the core content could still be like the story, but we are now telling the stories in different ways. So the text is one. We've invested a lot in coming up with good infographics as well. So that's very important. Video is increasingly becoming a very, very core component, as well as images. Previously with the traditional newspapers, you probably can have 1, 2, images, photos, of an event. But now with digital, we can have unlimited photos of what's happening. We can have video. So it really enriches with a combination of different type of formats. The whole reading experience is now very different.
And I guess the other question for me is that what are those platforms that you should be targeting? Is it still the Facebooks of the world? Is it the WhatsApps of the world, Telegram perhaps? How do you know what content will work on which platform? And do you really need to customize that content then for those platforms, if anyone wants to have a go at that?
Absolutely. I mean, the content needs to be totally different per platform because the audience is different, and also how they consume content on those platforms is totally different. Has to be done at the right time of day. It has to be the right type of content. So relevant. Otherwise, the user just switches off and you've lost them. So absolutely, platform is key to all of this, and needs to be driving the strategy as well.
So Karl, for you, you sort of look after Singapore, Malaysia as well. What kind of content is driven in these markets?
So for Singapore, SGAG, MGAG, and we recently launched PGAG. So in these 3 humor verticals that we run, what we noticed in Southeast Asia, and the reason why we started these companies was because we felt that we didn't want to consume content only from the US or from Europe or from the rest of the world. We wanted to talk about silly and funny and important things that mattered to our community. And for example, if there's an ostrich running down the highway in KL, every Malaysian wants to be talking about it, right? Every brand wants to be talking about it. In fact, many brands did content around it. And so there were no platforms that sort of centralized all these important topics. And so for us, what we notice is that in Southeast Asia, in the countries that we operate in, if somebody or something happens, we are small enough and we're fast enough to react as a country, especially in Singapore, right? So for example, Kim Jong-un is coming to town next week. That's big deal, right? So you have people imposing as him walking around the Fullerton Bay. That's big news. That's stuff that people want to consume and talk about. So across in Malaysia, it's new Malaysia, right? So they had an epic elections. Everybody's talking about it. And that evening, the team just started memeing to every little twist and turn into the story. We launched 9 memes across 9 hours, 1 every hour, until 4 a.m. that morning. And the next morning, they started making more memes and more videos about the elections. So I realized, I think content about the pulse of your society, the pulse of your city matters a lot. And I think that is perhaps quite unique to Southeast Asia, perhaps?
Yep. And I think, you have to sort of customize and look at the political sensibilities of each market. Julian, you and I were talking about that, how regulation in the viral content space in Singapore might be slightly problematic as compared to, let's say, Malaysia or Indonesia, or the country that I come from, which is India. So we can discuss that later, but I am mindful there's so many people who want to ask so many more questions from the audience. And one of the more popular ones is, how do you define or how do you balance between the creative side of content without it being too brandy as well? So if anyone.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. There is a balance for sure, and it goes back to what I was saying originally. Consumers want to engage with content that's real. So as long as it's real stories, that's igniting conversation, that's being a little bit controversial perhaps, but telling a real story, then the consumers are interested. They don't really mind then if it's branded or not, as long as it's done in the right way, it's done in a subtle way. And again, that's why we work with influencers, because influencers understand their audience, so they know how to tell a story. And so between the brand trying to get the message across, and then the creator understanding their key audience, we can create really interesting content that's actually relevant and of use and added value. The generation Z of today, they really want to have value out of a message as well. So something that's current and popular and educational also is a key to getting that balance right.
But again, I mean, if you're using influencers, and let's say I'm talking about it from a perspective of an entrepreneur in the audience right now who can't afford a big agency, and this is to anyone on the panel really, how do you make sure that the content or the product that you're putting out is authentic, is engaging? How do you influence that influencer to use you or use your content?
Well, I mean, we are talent agnostic or creator agnostic, so we aren't a talent agency. We're in a very unique position. We create content, we manage talent, we manage the brand, aspirations when it comes to, marketing. So we sit in the middle. So we aren't directing or, feeding the creator with exactly what they have to create. We're just giving them guidance from what's worked, and again, from the brand guidelines that the brand is giving us. So there is no right or wrong answer here, but again, it just goes back to making sure that the creator is being unique to themselves, unique to their audience, creating content that people want to consume, creating content that their users still want to engage with, and then ensuring the brand gets what they want with regards to the reach and the message.
We touched upon artificial intelligence and data analytics very slightly, but I'd like to get back into it. So could each of you perhaps talk about how you used data insights to actually create a content or a product that went viral? And take your time, because I know it.
Maybe I can jump in on this. I think we started our venture into the world of data in 2014 when we started to work with a local university partner, and they were really interested in coming to us to ask what makes a meme viral or what makes a meme perform. So the entire professor and his team segmented all the thousands of memes we had made into factors for success. So what we found in the results was quite counterintuitive. For example, we always had this notion that if we had more frames or more text or more clutter in a meme, it would not perform as well. But at the same time, it was counterintuitive because it was really difficult to create memes that had very little text or very little frames. But the results came out from that study, and it showed that more clutter is actually okay because people actually consume the memes at like comic strips. So they actually read frame by frame, bubble by bubble, and they want a longer story. And the more clutter there was, the better story we could tell, the more engaged the audience would be. The next thing that we found after looking through data in 2015 was that my co-founder, his character's name is Xiaoming, if you know Xiaoming. He's that annoying guy who keeps going around telling lame jokes. It actually surfaced in 2015 or 16 that his appearance in some of the videos actually made performance poorer. So we were like, oh shit, you're out of a job, dude. Like, okay, we gotta find a new job for you. But it was also interesting to look at some of the effects on characterization, on how we design characters, how we sort of portray them. That also plays a factor into the results of content. So currently we decided to build a data team in-house. So it might seem like all fun and games on the surface, but what goes underneath is every little thing, down from a character to whether he or she wears spectacles, the way that they say certain things, the time that we launch certain things, is all going through a bit of a study that helps us to optimize content in the way that we write and create content for our audience.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we use data in two ways. One is to really come up with what kind of stories would really impact our readers. And over the years we've realized that human interest stories, so something that impacts the man in the street, is actually very, very, very powerful, and and has a lot of interest in it. So for example, like every year when there's the budget season, budgets, we all think that it is going to be very dry.
I was about to say budgets aren't very viral in my dictionary, but maybe you could prove me wrong.
Yeah, so exactly. But what we've realized is that if we could go out and get how it actually impacts the man on the ground, like certain policies that have come out, certain decisions that was made, how would it actually impact talk to the people, feature, them, that has really actually moved the needle to make, the budget stories a lot more accessible and more understandable to our readers as well. So on that side, and the other side that we've been using data is, to really personalize, content. So one of the ways we do is through our newsletters, whereby, we can actually send a different newsletter to you, compared to somebody else. We do daily newsletters, which is a way to actually also engage our users directly and to give them the kind of stories that they like to read, as well as the type of stories that they will find useful.
Byron,
for us, actually this is something I was going to mention earlier, but we really are spending less time chasing virality, and because we're a news organization focusing more on chasing good stories, whether they're going to go viral or not. And so we've kind of pivoted away from chasing virality and raw audience size towards chasing quality and creating quality content that has value. So we actually just implemented a paywall and a membership and subscription program on our website. So we still look at the analytics of how our content performs, but we don't really change our coverage too much based on that, because we want to cover what matters, what's important, and what our audience cares about.
So it's not chasing virality.
Yeah, we're much less looking into the science of virality, much more trying to create great stories that people want to read, and we think that that will pay off in the long run. An area that we are using a lot of data analysis is on our website, where we have 2 to 4 million unique visitors coming through every month. And so there's a lot of testing that we can do to see what's working, what's not, as to, for example, a button could be large or small or green or red, and that might have a huge impact on whether people click on it. So we do a lot of testing of things on our website, but less so altering our content strategy based upon the data of how it performed.
I think to add to that, our business does exactly that. So we've actually got many different strings to our bow. We've been established for more than 10 years. Previously we were called Rightster. We bought a company, Base 79, Viral Spiral. So we've got these businesses that have all come together now. We rebranded to Brave Bison 2 years ago. So amongst those businesses, we've got an abundance of data, and we actually use it across the business depending what the motivation or the aim is. So one area is our viral business. So as I said before, we're the 3rd largest media publisher in the world, and we use our data in order to optimize viral video. And so we're very successful there, and we had, I think, 4.8 billion impressions last month alone. And then the other side of it is then we can use that data as well to empower what we do on the branded content side. So we're using the data that we have from successful branded content campaigns, and also the data that we're getting from Unruly in order to fuel the creative ideation that we're doing. However, I do want to add that data isn't always the be-all and end-all, because we can use systems as much as we like. We use systems for finding great talent when it comes to branded content, but it is very important to make sure you have that human touch, especially when it comes around creativity, especially when it comes around creating great content. So it's important to have a combination of that data and then creative experts in order to make very cool, original content.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just as a consumer as well, data can take you that much to your audience. But again, what goes viral or what doesn't is completely dependent on the market, perhaps the country, the geography that you're working in, which brings me to my next question, which is, for instance, Karl, you operate in Singapore. You're a homegrown company. So is Julian with SPH. Do you notice that certain things work here versus, let's say, in Europe, in the US, or what doesn't work as well?
Well, I think just to tie this in with one of the questions on screen, insights derived to create viral piece of content. Again, I think Singapore is small enough, if you minus away everyone who's maybe below the ages of 10 and everybody who's above 70, you're really just dealing with a size of maybe 3 million plus people. Yep. And again, being a small country, when a big piece of news comes up, it takes the country by storm, and that could be anything from a cheese sandwich to Pokemon Go to Kim Jong-un coming to have a meeting with Trump. So an example of how we tapped on one of these pieces of news was during the height of the Pokemon Go fiesta, we noticed that Hougang was like this hotbed for Pokemon players. Everybody would just kind of hang out at Hougang and sit around the playground. And so understanding that piece of information with the human element with the creatives coming in, we decided to play a prank on all the Hougang Pokemon Go players. So what we did was we went there and we planted my co-founder, Xiaoming, into the crowds with cameras all around the HDB blocks, and he shouted, "Snorlax!" and he just started running, right? But there was no Snorlax, there was no rare Pokemon, but because people were so excited to catch Snorlax, everybody just ran after him. So the cameras caught a whole sort of plate tectonic movement of people charging after him, and that went viral. So that did, I think, about 5 million views, and that was a piece of content that really ties in the data, the human element with the trending topic and the pulse of Singapore into something that really took off for us.
And when it comes to what makes, let's say, content or even product, because one thing that we haven't touched upon, and somebody from the audience pointed this out, is content. We've been talking a lot about that, but what makes products viral as well? You mentioned Pokemon Go, for instance. I can think of a couple of others. When I was a kid, I used to play Prince of Persia, which was this very old school video game, but I still love it. So can products also go viral? And maybe I should just answer this question.
Sure, I think there's a whole industry these days of making products go viral through Facebook advertising, and then selling them, a lot of which are junk. But sure, products can absolutely go viral, and sometimes they deserve to go viral because they're really great and revolutionary.
To add on, I think, as Byron mentioned, one of the recent products that really went viral last year was the fidget spinner.
Yeah.
Right? So I know a group of Singaporeans who literally just build e-commerce sites on viral products. So they sold, if I'm not wrong, $2 million worth of fidget spinners in a span of maybe 3 months. And after the fidget spinner hype died, they started to move into the kind of backpacks that have no zips from the front, and they just ripped it off a Taobao seller, and they sold millions of that as well through Facebook advertising. So products, viral, great business.
That's very entrepreneurial. I don't know why I didn't think of that, so I wouldn't be sitting here talking about that. But hey, that's for the next slide.
Just to add to that, I think that content creation and viral video is now allowed and enabled products that perhaps we never thought could be sold online to actually move online. So I think that's definitely a trend that we're seeing based on the fact that we can now tell stories online. We can tell succinct stories, and also consumers are now actually moving to consuming much longer content. So a lot of people ask the question, they ask my team all the time, what is the optimum length of video? Is it 6 seconds? Is it 30 seconds? Is it 60 seconds? Actually, we're getting more and more requests now for much longer form video, because consumers, as long as it's telling a story, as long as it's relevant, as long as it's original, all of those things that we've discussed, the length of the video actually doesn't matter. And again, I think that's why products now, and products again that we never thought would go viral online, are able to do that because they're able to tell a story.
In fact, I think that now is probably the best age for products to go viral. I mean, previously, yes, you need to spend a lot of money in perhaps traditional advertising, and it is very limited to perhaps your local neighborhood or city or country at the most. But today, with digital, with the internet, I mean, everything can go global. So I think that the opportunity is actually at its best, for someone to really make a product go viral globally.
Yeah. So just piggybacking off the last question as well, which is, and I'm mindful we have about 3 minutes. So each of you, if we can go around the circle, what's the best piece of advice that you would give to the people here when it comes to creating quote unquote viral content? Byron, let's start with you.
Make people laugh.
That's always nice.
For me, I heard this from one of the best content creators in the Philippines. Her advice, which I'm borrowing for this answer, is to always give a swing of emotions, make somebody cry, and then make somebody laugh within the next 10 seconds. And if you can achieve that in your content, that they're going to remember that. So that's something really powerful.
Slightly schizo there, but yeah, I kind of get where she's coming from.
I'm going to keep it really simple, keep it authentic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it has to be unique. You know, something that is original, that is very, very unique.
And I think we still have about 1.5 minutes, so I am going to be cheeky and ask what happens when a piece of content or a product goes very bad virally. What can you do to salvage something like that?
When a piece of content goes virally in a bad way.
Yeah.
We haven't had that happen too much, so I don't have a lot of experience with that.
Come on, there must be something there.
Hire a good PR agent.
Yeah, very rarely you might have to make a public statement, but I think we very much avoid that.
Yeah.
That's the last recourse is to make a statement and try to improve the situation. But we try to stay above the fray because, we get criticized constantly and things get a lot of criticism constantly. So we really don't want to wade into constantly responding to every piece of criticism we get. But hire a lawyer.
I think it depends on the context, but I think at the end of the day, honesty is probably the best policy. So if you made a mistake, come up clean and apologize for it. I think, even though social media can be very cruel, but I think if you're honest, they would accept it.
I think everybody makes mistakes in marketing, and the best policy is learn quickly. But you can actually turn these things around sometimes as well and turn it into a positive. And so I believe that don't use the negative experiences to not, jump straight back in and actually ride on the back of that and make those changes.
Yep. Sensible advice there, and for me the key takeaways from this session has been that there is no magic formula to viral content. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a hit and go. Think about the markets that you're operating in and customize the content according to the audience that you're speaking with, and always hire a lawyer if things go bad and make a statement. So on that note, thank you very much everyone, and thank you to my panelists as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.